Well, good morning, everybody. So today, happy Sunday, we're back over on our Buick Grand National. So I ordered a new fuel tank from Carbon Performance. This is the Turbo Regal Grand National fuel tank. I ordered the replacement fuel pump kit from Carbon, the Wix fuel filter, the gas tank rubber insulator straps, and the replacement metal gas straps. Now, unfortunately, it looks like the gas tank, they circled this, the gas tank metal straps are on back order, basically, probably unobtainium right now, but we're gonna reuse our factory ones. So, first thing I wanna talk about is these fuel tanks on these Grand Nationals, Regal T-types, Turbo Regals. My friend back in Texas, John Bockwell, he was going over this with his beautiful 87 Grand National. And he explained to me and reminded me that if you replace one of these gas tanks, or you can get one made in, I'm not sure where they're made, but there's just a regular Buick Regal gas tank, and it probably fits the Olds and Pontiac too. I'm sure it fits all the G bodies. Basically, it's a G body. However, it's imperative that you know that the turbo cars have a special gas tank. This one's made in Canada. And I got this from Carbon Performance, and it was very, very expensive. I believe it was $698, but there's a reason for that. So if you come over here and you look, what makes these different, and my friend back home reminded me, John, that's that baffle. On these turbo cars, you gotta have that baffle in there. If you can't see it, I can get my light and show you, but this baffle is what, well, my light doesn't work, but this baffle is what, yeah, there it is right there. The baffle is what keeps the fuel from obviously sloshing and going lean and having a really, really bad, basically toasted pistons. So let me back up by saying, why am I replacing this? Well, we put a fuel pump in this probably about 7 or 8 years ago. Just to recap, my dad bought the car brand new. In 1987, I was with him when we bought it. It's got 40,000 miles on it, I believe, or maybe 41,000 miles on it. Back then, we lived in kind of the north central part of Texas, and we lived out in the country, outside of Denton County, near a little town called Ponder, Justin, in between those two towns. And all the roads back then were gravel roads. You can imagine, because it was all farm town, farmland, but the roads were atrocious, especially for having a car like this. And for my poor dad, it just killed him anytime he had to drive this car down those roads. But that was the only means by which we could get to our house. So I'm thinking the car is an 87. We do mostly 60s cars and 50s cars around here. We do in 70s cars, obviously. Don't really do a lot. I have a Grand National, so I work on my own Grand National, but I'm not the expert. So unfortunately, I wish I knew more about these cars, but I don't. But you guys out there have really helped me with my comments, and I really appreciate it. So I want to ask everybody, for one thing, when we get ready to pull this tank, do you think there's going to be a lot of dirt and contamination, possibly rust? Now, let me tell you, my dad kept this car in a shop. It was pampered. It was pampered. A lot of fights with him and my mom about, him loving this car. But the car was pampered. Now, our shop that we had, it was not heated and air conditioned, and it was not insulated. So in that shop, it would get cold, and of course, it would get hot. So a lot of changes in temperature, and of course I'm thinking possibilities for condensation in the tank. But I got to talking to some people and saying, yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and change the fuel pump. And really, what's the point of me changing the fuel pump and the fuel filter in a 30-plus-year-old car by not going ahead and changing the fuel tank for this car? We do these EFI conversions mostly on our 60s and 70s cars and some of our 50s cars. We always go ahead and replace the fuel tank, because those old tanks, if you watched any of these YouTube videos, especially the guys and gals that do this a lot more than I do and a lot more educated on this, like say Derek from Vice Grip Garage, he's always fighting those gas tanks when he's trying to get those things going and to get him home. And I would say probably 7 times out of 10, he's got to put a gas tank, make his own gas tank and put it up in the cab with him and run his own fuel system, because the fuel tanks are just atrocious. And that's what we see in all these cars. So we always do and ask the customer to say, look, you're going to need to change the gas tank. So I'm kind of thinking this on, although this is an 87, not a 67 or even a 77, I'm thinking it's time to replace the fuel tank. So we got that from Curbin Performance. Now, we're going to replace that, obviously, the pump, and I have to figure out that kit. I'll have to give you more information, but it was one of the good pumps. It may be a Walbro. I cannot remember, from Curbin. But once we get ready to put this on the rack and we get everything, once I receive the second shipment from Curbin, I'll go over that with everybody. However, once we get into this, I want everybody's suggestions and comments, and tell me if you think I'm going up down a rabbit hole or anything else. I got excellent comment on basically checking my I've got a new fuel pump, fuel pressure regulator on here, and I was told, reminded me, hey, pull the vacuum hose off, adjust it to 43 pounds, and then put the vacuum line back on. I will do that again. So that's what's about to happen. We're about to go ahead and replace fuel tank, fuel pump. Now the sending unit, I don't know. That's another thing. When we get into there, and it's possible that sock could be bad, and it may have issues. I don't know how the sock works on one of these. Right? I do know how it works, but when I replaced the fuel pump last time, it seemed like the sock was okay. But when I get in, do I need to replace the fuel sending unit? I don't know. So you guys give me your comments. Let me know what you think about this endeavor. I'm just trying to make it as reliable as possible. And, you know, I also want to bring something else up. I'm really guilty of this, but I think we all as car guys are guilty, or don't sometimes realize, I want this car, I want that car, I want this car. You want to build a collection of cars. Man, there's so many cars I want, but I can't afford to have them. But one thing I'm getting reminded of is, you know, I've got basically 3 cars of my own. I've got the Charger, I've got the Grand National, and I've got our 68 Barracuda that's at Just Mopar Joe's getting painted over in Arkansas. And it's reminding me of the maintenance I have to do on all 3 of these cars. You got to keep the oil changed in them, filter, keep up with your fuel systems. You know, it's something you got to kind of consider, and it can be costly. So I'm going to be retiring in about 4 years from my regular day-to-day job in the oil and gas industry. But, you know, eventually I'll be on a fixed income, and I got to sit here and think, you know, next car I wanted was an E-body Cuda. But one, am I going to have room for 4 cars? And then on top of that, you got to think about all the maintenance that you're going to be doing. I mean, you don't put crappy oil in any of these cars either. You know, Dad ran Mobil 1 synthetic in this, and I run AmSoil in the Charger and my Cuda. So it gets expensive. So keep that in mind. So with that said, I hope everybody has a great Sunday, and stay tuned for part 2.